and welcome to The World Today. I'm Susan Ilian in Lagos. Here's what's coming up on the program today. The U.S. condemns Iran over ballistic missile strikes on Iraq's northern city of Irbil. Plus, member of the New Zealand Parliament resigns following shoplifting allegations. The World Today begins right now. Welcome back. The United States has condemned Iran over ballistic missile strikes on the northern Iraq city of Irbil, calling them reckless and imprecise. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said they struck what they claimed were an Israeli spy headquarters in Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdistan region. 4 civilians were killed and 6 hurt in the attack. Local authorities said Iraq recalled its ambassador from Tehran, condemning the strikes as a blatant violation of sovereignty. The Israeli government has made no comment about the incident.
To all of the people standing behind me and all of the people in this room and so many great politicians and great dignitaries and friends, I just want to thank you all. This is a very special night, and this is the first because the big night is going to be in November when we take back our country, and truly we do make our country great again. Thank you very much, everybody. Great honor. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I don't want to be overly rough on the president, but I have to say that he is the worst president that we've had in the history of our country. He's destroying our country. But you know, the truth is the people in our country are great. They're all great. We love Iowa, but they're all great. They only want to see one thing. They want our country to come back. They're embarrassed by what's going on. Our country is laughed at. All over the world, they're laughing at us. And they want our country to come back. They want America, you know, they want us to be great again. It's a very simple. MAGA, make America great again. And America first. America first is a very important part of MAGA. Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump says in his video just before his landslide victory in the Iowa caucuses was very special. Iowa is the first of the state-by-state contests where Republican voters pick their White House candidates. Next up is New Hampshire. Speaking to supporters late last night, Trump expressed hope that Americans could come together to straighten out the world. He also promised that if he won a second term in the White House, he would ramp up domestic energy production. Trump was the night's clear winner with more than 56,000 votes ahead of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, who were only a few thousand votes apart. Hours after the votes, the former U.S. president arrived at the courthouse in Manhattan, New York City for jury selection in his civil defamation damages trial. Trump is being sued for defamation by John Carroll for remarks he made about her in 2019. And our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, joins us now. Welcome to the program, Maria. Now,
thank you.
I'm sure the whole country was up all night watching the Iowa caucus, and the former president came out the clear winner. Describe for us a little the reaction across the country to this news.
Yes, you are correct. The country has been anticipating the Iowa caucuses for quite some time now. As we know, the 2024 elections have been slated to be some of the most important in modern day history of the United States. And so this is one that was definitely much anticipated. Many people were looking to show that this was going to be a clear, potentially deciding factor in setting the path forward for this election cycle. And as you stated, the former president was the clear winner on the Republican side. This is the first time we've really seen him in this type of setting. We know that he has been dealing with several legal matters, and he also has not been to any of the debates thus far. And so this was always slated to be, and historically has been, a very trend-setting and a kind of an eye-opening insight into what we could potentially see in this 2024 election.
And Maria, DeSantis and Haley are still his main challengers. But given their performance in Iowa, what are their chances of doing better in New Hampshire and other caucuses?
Well, as important as New Hampshire is and the other caucuses, this really sets the stage. And so I think we are potentially looking at challenges because we even know in the previous debates, even though the former president was not at those debates, many people still said that he was the winner and he was leading the party. And so I think that we are in a period of time where the Republican Party is making a decision. Doesn't mean that necessarily those Republicans that are heavily in support of Trump, who have been considered MAGA Republicans, are the strongest force within the party. I think that's still up for question. But what it does say is that at this time, those who we see supporting the Republican Party are in alignment with the former president's ideas and in alignment with him being their nominee for president.
Czechpreneur Vivek Ramaswamy has pulled out of the race and endorsed Donald Trump. What are the chances, Maria, that the other candidates will do the same eventually?
Well, we know that he has been, and he stated several times when he was in previous debates before he pulled out of the race, that he was in alignment and did support many of the policies, many of the decisions the former president made while he was president. And so I don't think that was a surprise. I think it was anticipated that he would. And in debates previously, he was slated to be the individual that was in most alignment with the former president. Now, whether or not Nikki Haley and Ben DeSantis would come out of the race and support the former president, I think they are. We don't anticipate that they will be coming out of the race and ending their candidacy. But once we get to a nominee, will they support him? I think the entire Republican Party would do that. But I think we still have some time to see if there will be anything coming out about the former president that could cause challenge for him to be the nominee. But I think they're going to continue on until the end.
And so my last question to you, all of this excitement is happening on the Republican side. What's going on with the Democrats?
Well, the current president is very much stating that he is going to run for re-election. We can see that he's putting a lot of emphasis on his campaign. He is reaching out to marginalized communities at a rate that we have not seen in the previous election cycle by the current president. And so we know that he is preparing himself, and the Democratic Party is preparing themselves. There's not been a slated candidate that potentially could compete with the president. And so I think we're in a position that we're going to definitely see the president potentially being that candidate for the Democratic Party.
All right, Maria, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the United States has condemned Iran over ballistic missile strikes on the northern Iraqi city of Irbil, calling them reckless and imprecise. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said they struck what they claimed were an Israeli spy headquarters in Iraqi's semi-autonomous Kurdistan region. 4 civilians were killed and 6 hurt in the attack, local authorities said. Iraq recalled its ambassador from Tehran, condemning the strike as a blatant violation of sovereignty. The Israeli government has made no comment about the incident. And Voice of America's Heather Murdoch joins us from Istanbul, Turkey. Heather, great to see you again. Let me start by asking you this, Heather. Why is the U.S. concerned about this missile strike in northern Iraq?
The U.S. is concerned about this missile strike for several reasons, not the least of which is that the U.S. has multiple interests in Iraq, specifically in the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq. The U.S. government has said none of its consulates or military bases in the region were hit in the missile strikes, but there have been recent attacks by militant groups affiliated with Iran inside Iraq that have led to the deaths of U.S. soldiers and properties. This attack was not directed towards the U.S. according to Iran, but it's also part of a greater power play between these two countries, the U.S. and Iran, that has taken place inside the country of Iraq for decades.
And is there really any indication America sees this as retaliation for airstrikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen?
Well, while it may not be a direct retaliation for American-led airstrikes on Houthis in Yemen, it is part of the wider conflict in the Middle East in which America and Iran both line up on different sides. And with the escalation in Yemen, there is also an escalation in Iraq. So it's part of the same conflict, and it is expected that if the United States escalates in one place, Iran will escalate as well. And at the moment, it appears that they both appear to be escalating just in different countries.
And what these attacks, Heather, they are a fallout of the Israel-Hamas war, if you will. I mean, what does Iran stand to gain from this? Some people say it's like proxy war for Iran.
It is. There's a great concern that the Israel-Hamas war is expanding or escalating throughout the region, and the United States and Iran are on opposite sides of that war. Iran has quite a bit to gain at home for these attacks. They say it's in retaliation for a terrorist attack inside Iran that killed nearly 100 people early this month. And certainly the Iranian public would like to see justice for those attacks. The attack was in Iraq and also in Syria, of course, where they say they hit Islamic State targets, although local Syrian officials say this is not the case. Also, Iran stands to gain at home for asserting its power in this war that is basically like you said, a proxy war that involves the Israel and Hamas war. The Iranian public is also deeply supportive of the Palestinian people, and Iran has told the public and told the world that it attacked Israeli intelligence inside Iraq. Iraqi leaders say this is not true, and there were no Israeli intelligence bases or work being done inside the Kurdistan region of Iraq. However, it does stand to reason that the Iranian public will support any attack that Iran says it has made on Israeli interests.
Well, apart from it sounding like a ticking time bomb, how does this impact on the ongoing conflict in the Middle East? It sounds like there's a lot of moving parts.
There is, and what's most concerning about this attack and how it impacts the ongoing conflict is that it will be part of an escalation, not just in Iraq or in Yemen, but also in other parts where the conflict is growing in Israel and also in Lebanon. The Hezbollah fighters are also exchanging bombs with Israel at this moment. So the greater war in the Middle East, with its heart right now being between Israel and Hamas, seems to be expanding, and this seems to be another block down towards the war getting worse and worse.
All right. Heather Murdoch, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And a New Zealand MP, Golriz Ghahraman of the Green Party, has resigned following multiple allegations of shoplifting, which police are investigating. Ghahraman is alleged to have stolen 3 times from 2 clothing stores, one in Auckland and the other in Wellington. The 42-year-old former UN human rights lawyer made history in 2017 as the first refugee in the country's government. She once held her party's justice portfolio. She said work-related stress made her behave completely out of character. Her resignation today comes after CCTV footage emerged showing her allegedly taking a designer handbag from an Auckland boutique. And Niger's prime minister is in Russia for talks aimed at deepening economic and military ties between the two countries. He arrived on Monday, accompanied by Defense Minister Salihu Modi, as well as Niger's ministers of petroleum and trade. Paris-based news website Monde Afrique reports that the military junta, which is under tough sanctions from its West African neighbors, is seeking to diversify its partnerships. According to more reports, Mr. Zain would also visit Turkey, Iran, and Serbia. The junta had always made clear its intention to free itself of Western influence, beginning with the severing of military ties with France. While in Moscow, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says PM Zayn would not be meeting President Vladimir Putin, as it is not on the president's agenda. And the United Nations says it's considering delivering aid to Sudan via new route from South Sudan as aid agencies struggle to access much of the country. Reps from the World Health Organization say they are looking at establishing cross-border operations from South Sudan into South and West Kordofan in Sudan. It's been 9 months of war, which the UN says has created a humanitarian crisis and a very difficult working environment, leaving nearly half of Sudan's population in need of aid. More than 7 million people have fled their homes, making Sudan the biggest displacement crisis in the world. Mauritius has raised a cyclone warning alert to maximum after Cyclone Bilal brought torrential rain and flooding to the Indian Ocean island nation. The level 4 warning was put in place after the storm hit close to the country's southern coast at about 90 kilometers per hour on Tuesday morning. The country's meteorological service says the storm is now moving away from eastwards at about 18 kilometers per hour, but warns that other environmental risks do still exist. At least one person has died from the storm in Mauritius and another in neighboring Reunion. Thousands are without power and streets are flooded. The Mauritius Meteorological Agency is urging people to remain in safe places and not to go out to sea or walk along shorelines because of the potential for storm surges. And welcome back. It's the second day of the 19th summit of the non-aligned movement taking place in Uganda. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been speaking on the country's goal for the summit. Permanent Secretary Vincent Bagir-Waiswa says that Uganda seeks further cooperation of states within the non-aligned movement, harmonizing and reinforcing collaboration. At the meeting, the representatives of the organization's member states also supported a proposal to finalize their declaration on the Palestinian issue, first adopted in 2019 at the 18th NAM summit, to take into account the latest conflict escalation.
Our key focus area are first and foremost harmonizing and reinforcing collaboration within the movement. As you know, this movement started in 1961. So Uganda will focus on creating cohesion within the movement to ensure that we can work together as a movement for the good of humanity. We shall be listening to the views of the members, and NAM has a working method that prescribes that everything we do must be by consensus. So we expect that if there is consensus that we focus on a certain matter, then so it be. If there is no consensus, then we can't focus on that matter. But so far, we have not subjected the matter of Palestine and Gaza to whether it should be the major topic that we discuss. So we have not subjected it to the aspect of consensus. Once we do, we shall inform members of the public.
And back here in Africa, to the south, the African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa has dismissed claims that the ANC has been inactive in improving the lives of ordinary South Africans during the 30 years of democracy. According to Mr. Ramaphosa, life has improved under the party's governance, urging people not to hesitate in acknowledging the achievements of democracy. He also emphasized that the ANC's 112th anniversary provides an opportunity for celebration. The president delivered these remarks to party members at Mbombela Stadium in Mpumalanga during the commemoration of the ANC's birthday.
The South Africa of today is different and vastly improved from the South Africa of 30 years ago. And that has been brought about by the African National Congress. The ANC has remained loyal to the pursuit of the national democratic revolution and also advancing Africa's renaissance. There have been mistakes along the way, and there have been missteps, because in life, nothing is ever perfect. The anti-transformation forces are converging in pacts. They are forming various pacts. Busbies are all packed, there's packed that, and so forth. While at the same time, they are seeking to fragment the forces for change through splinter groups and smaller parties that want to contest the ANC.
And staying with South Africa, the finance minister is warning that next month's budget will be a difficult one, as the nation's ability to service its growing debt remains a challenge. Enoch Godongwana will table the annual budget in late February, when he'll announce more details on the National Treasury's plans to arrest ballooning debt. As the Treasury warned of a higher debt trajectory over the next 2 years, independent economist Professor Bonke Dumisa stressed the need for a zero-budget basis to stabilize public finances and accelerate growth.
It's very easy to be look very concerned and a very responsible citizen when you say, let us increase this 350 rands and let us move to the basic income grant, without actually saying where that money is going to come from. So the government will have, I'm not so sure whether I'm comfortable saying that they must raise over 1.2 trillion rands over the next 3 years. But there is a need to raise money just to keep afloat. The amount that we can borrow, then that is one which we must debate. And the former Minister of Finance, Ubabu Tito Mboweni, once said that South Africa must move to a zero budget basis. All the trade unions and public servants did not hear anything about that thing. They simply said, forget it, we do not want that thing. If ever we can move to a zero-based budgeting system, then you can pull out a lot of money, items that are there to fund certain things which we can do without. And then in that way, maybe we can start living within our means. As it is, South Africa is living beyond its means. If ever it was a private person, an individual, it would have been declared bankrupt a long time ago. Even the debt councillors would not be.
Bikaner Camel Festival came to a spectacular close on Sunday, with pageants and races concluding Rajasthan's annual 3-day event. A number of highly decorated camels with ornate shawls and beadwork on their costumes were seen during the festival, as well as crowds watching the racing. The whole town had time off and invitations sent out worldwide so that everyone can come here and enjoy this festival. Other events included dancing, races with participants carrying water pots on their heads, and wrestling. The festival took place from January 12th to the 14th. And that's it for The World Today. I'm Susan Illian. See you tomorrow.